In this video, I'm going to show you how to add a gradient background to your Squarespace website, both with and without code. In the first method, I'm going to show you that does not involve code. You are limited to a little more of a basic gradient using just 2 colors, but if you do want to use a more complex gradient with multiple colors and layers and stuff like that, then you will need to use some custom CSS code, which I will show you how to do in the second method. And I will also be sharing with you some tools that you can use to create some really cool gradients to add to your website. So first I'm going to show you how to add just like a basic gradient to your section background without using code. So if you go into edit, I'm going to add a new section just so we can start fresh here. Hovering over the section that you want to add the background to, go to edit section and then click on the background tab up here and then click on art. So scroll down. I'm going to click on this one right here. If you hover over it, it'll say gradient. So I'm going to click on that one. And you may or may not be able to tell, but there is like a subtle animation going on here. And I don't want that. I just want it to be like a basic linear gradient background. So I'm going to go back into where I just was in the art tab, scroll down here, and then I'm going to click on this button right here to get into the gradient settings. So first of all, to change the colors, you can do that up here. So the start color will be the one at the top, and then the end color is the color at the bottom. And you can choose from the colors in your site-wide palette here, or you can also choose a custom color by playing around with the color wheel here, or you can enter in a hex code down here. So I'm going to go back and just choose a color from my palette. Okay, and then let's go to texture. So to stop this animation, we can bring down the morph speed and the speed to 0. So now it's not moving. And then we can bring down the complexity all the way to 0 as well to get rid of all of those weird blobs. That's pretty much all we need to do in the texture setting. So if we go back up and click on shape and size, this is how we will define the angle and position of the gradient. So if you have it all the way to -100 to +100 for the start and end position, that is basically a full gradient from the top all the way to the bottom, ending at the bottom. You can play around with this to make it start closer to the center or end closer to the center. So you see the gradient is mostly just like right here in the center, and this is just solid color above and below. So you can play around with that. And then to change the angle of the gradient, we can change it right here like that. So I'll just leave it at 270 to have this basic vertical gradient. And that's pretty much it. That's how you create this basic linear gradient background. You can also, if we go back into the settings and if we go under texture and scroll all the way down, there's a noise setting down here. So if you want to add like some grain to it, you can see that it is animating again. So if you click on the 3 dots right here, we can just turn off the animation, and then you can play around with the scale and intensity of the grain here. So that's kind of a fun way to add some texture to the gradient background. If you want the gradient to be a little bit more complex, for example, if you want to add multiple colors or layer multiple gradients on top of each other, then we're going to have to use some custom CSS code to achieve that. And there are actually a lot of gradient generator tools out there that will help you to create a gradient, and it will give you the CSS code for that gradient, and you can just copy it and paste it into your website. And I'll show you how to apply that in just a second. But first of all, let's just create a new section and save. And then I'm going to exit out of edit mode. And then let's go over to the custom CSS area of our website. So from the pages panel, if you scroll all the way down, go to custom code and then click on custom CSS. And so I'm going to give you some code that you can paste into here, and this code will be in the description below, but you will need to change some of it. So I'm going to actually open this in a new window so that it's easier for us to see. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. So this part right here is identifying the section where you want the gradient background to be applied to. So this is the part that you're going to have to change. And in order to find your section ID, I recommend getting this Chrome extension called Squarespace ID Finder by Will Myers. And I highly recommend this plugin if you don't already have it and you're working on adding custom CSS code to your Squarespace website. So once you have that installed and activated, you can just click on the section ID of the section that you want the background to be on, and that's going to copy the section ID to your clipboard. And then we're going to go back into the custom CSS and just delete the existing section ID here and then just paste in yours. Make sure you still have this space before the section border, section background. And then right inside these curly brackets right here, this is where you're going to paste your gradient code. And you're going to get that gradient from any gradient generator that you can find online. CSS Gradient.io is one that I use a lot just because it's very simple to use. You can create new stops and then add in your colors here. And down here, it will give you the CSS code. So you can just select and copy that and paste that right here. And then if you wanted something a little more complex, there's colorgradient.dev, which allows you to layer multiple gradients on top of each other. So you can get something like this kind of effect. And then to get the code, you would just scroll all the way down. And here it is right here. It's a lot of code here. So you would copy all of this and paste it into here. I'll just show you that because I have run into issues before with this one. I just pasted it and nothing happened. So sometimes after you paste it, you have to save and refresh to see the changes. And let's see if it worked. Okay. So I've also found when I use this, specifically when I use this website, sometimes it doesn't work. I've found the solution to that is if you go, I'm going to make this bigger again so it's easier to see. So you see right here where it says background image, space, and then radial gradient. Right before the radial gradient, you're going to type the tilde key and then double quotes and then add another double quotes right here. And then it's just adding 2. So I'm going to get rid of that second one. So basically everything after the tilde all the way up until the semicolon is going to be wrapped in double quotes. So now you can see it works. Basically Squarespace has this extra processing that it's trying to do and it's kind of messing things up. So we just use the tilde and then wrap all of this in double quotes to escape it from that extra processing and just tell Squarespace, just pass all this on through to the browser and let the browser render it as is and don't do any extra processing on it. Not that you need to know any of that. Just know that if you put it in here, you save and you refresh and it still doesn't work, maybe you could try adding this to it, to the background image. Okay, I'm going to do one more example. I'm just going to go over to this website, csspro.com/css-gradients. And this website has a ton of cool pre-made gradients, including some more unique gradients. So I'm going to just click on this one and come into here and I'm going to open this in a new window. I'm going to delete all of this. So again, we're just left with this. And inside the brackets, I'm going to paste that new gradient code. And you can see that it already picked up that gradient, but I'm going to make sure I save it. And that is how you add a more complex gradient background. One more thing to note is that if you are trying to add this custom coded gradient to a section where you already added in one of those built-in Squarespace art backgrounds, then the code that I gave you won't work. So you can just go in here and turn off the art background by clicking on none towards the top, saving it, and then adding that CSS and it should work. And that's pretty much it. So I hope this was helpful in showing you how to add a gradient background to your Squarespace website. If it was, please give this video a like and also leave a comment down below if you have any other questions. If you're struggling to figure out what you want to write on your website, what to put on your website, I have a worksheet for that I just came out with. So check it out in the link in the description below and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.